This is the ER301 sound computer. Now, why would you call anything a sound computer? Well, look in this menu world. Here are the kinds of things that you can bring up to make your patch. It really is a modular within a modular. You have sound sources, waves, can be samplers, grain playback. Yeah, grain playback. Let's get involved with a bit of that. Actually, to load the patch we're going to look at, we need to put in stereo mode, which involves pressing these two little buttons, and then we will load the patch from a preset I have made. Here's one I've made earlier. In it comes. Lovely stuff. So, what is this patch? I'm going to give you a quick overview using this scope mode. Here we go. We can zoom around and see what we have. We have a looper, which in this case will be the way that we record into our sound buffer, which will be shared amongst 3 grains to give us our instrument. So here is the dub looper. Now these little letters here indicate external gates and external controls that will essentially get busy with these parameters. So we can see that the reset and the punch are controlled by gate 1. More of that in a minute. We proceed into the first grain here, manual grain 1, which is being triggered by a sine wave. There's an input to the speed of this sine wave trigger here from an external CV. You can see basically what's going on. We get an overview of the entire patch shown kind of nicely in this little world. And when you want to go to a certain section, you can click back into edit and it takes you to that place, kind of hyperspaces you into the correct part of the patch. Let's begin with this recording looper. Now you can see my voice coming in to the input. Whoop, and I'm going to use this little guy, the trigger, to essentially pop my vocal into the machine. Here we go. Now, when I push up this fader here, we will hear grain 1. Nice. Now let's see inside that grain. We'll zoom along over to it. Manual grain. Let's have a look. Click inside this grain. Now when we go in, we see this particular grain. And we can explore it using this little device here. This is the Sweet 16 from Tessaract Modular, and it connects to the ER301 using an I2C connection. And that essentially gives you 16 additional faders alongside all of the rather resplendent CV and gate options the 301 already offers. So you get tons of ability to interact with the module. And with something like a granular playback engine, that's what you want really. So we've got our grain here, you see. This is the volume of the grain. The start point over here is controlled by this fader. Other parameters, duration, and then the speed of retrig. gets us into a basic place for how the granular engine is working. Now, all the other grains function in exactly the same way. So here's one. Let's speed that up. Of course, we can add grain 2 to that. Now, grain 2, if we go into its little universe, here we go. Let's have a look in this one. Similarly, we can change the start point, duration, speed. Just listening to number 2 now. And similarly for the third grain, of course. It's a bit slow. Adding the other grains. There we go. Some Tuvan Nashville connection. I had always thought what could be a nice vocal effect is something like a freeze. So we can sing a little note into the sampler like this. Oh, it's frozen, right? Oh. Now we bring the others in. What if you could somehow go from this essentially monophonic sound to a polyphonic one? Well, that's where this guy comes in. The catalyst. Emblematic Systems catalyst is a crossfader for control voltages. It takes you from one state to another. Now in this case, I've already tuned these oscillators, the pitch of all the grains, to be the same, close enough on the left side. On this side, I get the feeling they're going to be pretty insane. So let's have a listen. It goes from... yeah, it's a wee bit high on the right hand side. So if we're starting from this note, we can actually, to make our lives possibly, arguably easier, we can take this state, copy it, and paste it. Now on this side, we have the same settings. So regardless of where we are in the fader, the pitch is the same. But if I wanted to change this pitch, which is this little controller here, I hold down the destination pitch. I might just leave that one slightly higher than it was and change another one. It's going to be charmingly out of tune. So we've got this now. If we take these two notes, then of course we've got the joy of being able to make that sound evolve as well. So we can have a new recording. Obviously adding the third will give us a potential triad. Adding a new sound. Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to modulate all of these parameters? Essentially, I set up this fader number 12 to help us. So if we look at this grain here and push up number 12, a random voltage comes in and gives us a bit of wobbling. It's actually coming from the make noise woggle bug, which is out of shot. I'm going to slow it down a bit. So now it's just scanning over the grains. Now each of the grains will be affected slightly differently depending on the offset amount that is from these faders. So you can get quite a lot of control and variation there. And then between that, it's duration control. This fader. Got quite a lot of potential. A swarm of bees, maybe. So we've gone from the Mongolian deserts to, a bee hive. This is a pretty nice system for making drones, but if you don't want it to go on indefinitely, you're going to need some other way of playing this thing. That's why I thought maybe what could be handy is an off switch. So let's record a new loop. Now, excuse me while I go to roving cam, but here we go. This button is going to stop things. When things are stopped, that button can just give you a little taste for as long as your button is pressed. Essentially what's going on, every time this button is pressed, it toggles between two modes on this sequential switch. The straight up play through VCA or the gated version using this. Something akin to a math, really. Just an envelope. It's quite nice on this, actually, if you add a cycling mode. Let's pop in those grains again. And then we can mess with this. Change the speed, you know. You can even go super fast. Kind of grainy in its own way. And you can stop the whole thing. Actually, you have to stop it like this. Back to normal mode. There you go. So there are other ways to play this machine, which gets kind of handy really, because then you can really and obviously there are many ways to get busy when you can stop the damn thing. I'm going to record one more sound. This is to demonstrate that there are other ways to change the pitch of these grains other than the slider. See, here we are at the top range when this note feels like it could go up a semitone. So what we can try and do is use a precision adder. I've added one to each of the pitch signals coming out of this little machine. So basically after the CV leaves this box, it goes into a precision adder, one for each channel. Let's see what that does. These precision adders allow you to precisely change a CV value by fixed amounts, musical amounts, like a semitone, 2 semitones, like a fifth, by adding a 1 and a 4, up an octave, which really does change the entire balance. Now let's pitch all of that down again with our slider. Make a new sound. We can do that quicker if we have the start points right at the beginning. If you're going to use a precision adder, there's another input to each of those adders. We could just add a keyboard. Using the Hermod, I'm translating some MIDI to CV. The MIDI is going to come from this little keyboard, and I've got it set up to be a 3-note polyphony, and all of those notes are going to go to our grains. So I'll remove all the precision adders so we're back at unity, and then I'll kick in the keyboard. There we go. You need to engage them with these switches. Pretty sweet. Adding effects to grains is just a wonderful thing. So let's create a new sound to throw at this array of effects. We've got filter, delay, and another looper. Here's a new grain. I'm going to record that into a new layer, this looper. Pulling down the grains, we just hear the looper. In this case, the two loops are synchronized, but I can make one of the decks play reverse at half speed, for example. And then we can add some more signals to that, make a new sound.